Hi, everyone. I'm seeing some attendees filter in now. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, which kicks off a new year for the IMPEL Plus program. Quick note that we will be recording the webinar today, and it's going to be shared later, later this week. If you have any questions throughout our presentation today, please do drop them into the chat function below on your toolbar. And those questions will go directly to our panelists. We do have a Q&A section towards the end of this event. So for now, I'd like to introduce Mary Hubbard to start this off, the Tech to Market Manager at the DOE Building Technologies Office.
Great, thank you, Laura. And hello to everybody in attendance. On behalf of the U.S. Department of Energy Building Technologies Office and all of our partners, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's IMPEL Plus program webinar. We're very excited to be kicking off the 2021 to 2022 cycle of this program. The Department of Energy invests millions of dollars every year to fund tools and technologies. However, only a small portion of these actually have market impact. Residential and commercial buildings use 74% of all electricity and 39% of all energy use in the US. This is more than any other sector. IMPEL Plus is a unique buildings-focused technology to market program designed to change that. Incubating market-propelled entrepreneurial mindset at the labs and beyond, or IMPEL Plus, is a distinct program funded by the BTO within the DOE's Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy and implemented by the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. IMPEL Plus helps early stage innovators translate the premise and promise of their work into the language of business, boosting their chances of bringing their building technologies to market. First launched in 2019, the IMPEL program brought together 5 lab innovation teams from various DOE national labs to participate in the new program. In 2020, the program expanded to IMPEL Plus to go beyond the national labs to small businesses, academics, and entrepreneurs. In 2021, we became virtual due to the pandemic, but reached even more entrepreneurs and small business women and men. We also started our partnerships with Greentown Labs and Austin Technology Incubator, which we're excited to continue with this year. Today, we're launching the new 2021 to 2022 season. This year, we're adding an all-star panel of mentors, including private sector investors, public sector leaders, technical subject matter experts from across DOE's national lab system, demonstration experts for ensuring equitable access for testing building technologies, and entrepreneurs who have already brought building technologies to market. IMPEL Plus is also introducing a new partner reverse pitch event, where state and federal funders, private investors, and national lab scientists will pitch their platforms to team up with IMPEL Plus innovators. And as it has for the last 2 years, IMPEL Plus will provide innovators with world-class pitch coaching and on-ramps to public and private pipelines that offer funding and access that can lead to commercialization. Our success is contingent on driving market impact, and IMPEL Plus is where we get to walk the walk. So we're going to hear about all these great things and more today. So for now, I'll hand it over to Mary Ann Piet from Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory.
Happy New Year, everybody. So Reshma, I think I should be seeing the slides also. There we go. Happy New Year. It's the beginning of the fiscal year. Go ahead to the next slide. It's the beginning of fiscal year 22. So it is my great pleasure to start by thanking Mary Hubbard for her leadership and vision around the IMPEL program, and introduce you to the national labs. For those of you who are unfamiliar, there are 17 national labs across the United States. About 5 of them do work in building technologies. And I am in Oakland myself, sitting right next door to Berkeley, where I work at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. Go ahead to the next slide. Lawrence Berkeley National Lab is a multi-purpose lab. So we are working with the Office of Science. We have almost over 3,000 people over 4,000 on site, many days, many students, and a large budget of innovation. But for today, we're going to be speaking about the IMPEL program, which is designed to help link and launch new technologies into the marketplace. So it's my great pleasure to welcome you all today and to say hello and to thank Reshma and Mary for putting today's program together. Go ahead to the next slide. We started our work in building technologies after the oil embargo. The first Earth Day was back in 1976. And we were fortunate to be founded by a physicist named Art Rosenfeld. Art Rosenfeld knew that he saw the way the buildings were performing in the United States, and he knew that we would decrease our dependency on foreign oil if we could make our buildings more efficient, put in better windows, be able to model their consumption, put in better lighting systems. And we've been working for 4 decades, working on energy efficient glass, helping to do low emissivity coatings, working on things like heat islands, health and resilience, developing Energy Plus software. Most recently, we have developed something called Flex Lab, which is a test bed where you can come and help reduce the risk of bringing technologies to the market by testing them in scaled buildings, and also working in smart energy analytics. We can save a huge amount of money, 3 to 5, 10, 20% of the annual energy bills by helping facility managers understand energy waste. And today we're joining in the new fiscal year of the IMPEL programming to incubate market-propelled entrepreneurship at the labs and beyond. So I want to say welcome today to today's event, and I'm going to introduce Reshma. Reshma, take it away.
Thanks, Marianne, and thank you everybody for joining today's webinar. I'm going to go ahead with sharing a few slides to talk about what the IMPEL program is, and let me do it right now. So IMPEL was founded in 2019 with the idea of impelling building technologies to bridge the 2 valleys of death, the technology valley of death and the commercialization valley of death. As you know, that there is a substantial amount of government patient capital going into research and development of building technologies to prove out basic concepts in the lab settings. And then when you transition into field validation and demonstration, which is slightly higher technology readiness levels, there is a substantial technological value of death which needs to be de-risked through investment. The second one is a commercialization value of death, which is when innovators need to go from early prototypes and pilots into scale up and commercial launch. So this is a wide chasm where government funding tends to drop down and private sector investors need to pick up. So IMPEL really seeks to bridge these two valleys of death in a way that dovetails both the public and the private sector. So IMPEL connects building innovators through many activities. The first barrier that we seek to overcome is a fragmented public-private ecosystem. So we help to recruit and train and foster a building sector innovator community so we can focus on buildings and energy as a very important part of the climate puzzle. There's also a lack of entrepreneurial mindset and skill sets in researchers and scientists. So we create a push by training for pitch and model development. And this we are doing through IMPEL's world-class coaches and mentors. And finally, to address a barrier of low exposure to investors and partners, we have partnered with our mentors as well as 2 incubator partners, Greentown Labs and the Austin Technology Incubator, to create a pool so we can provide access to our innovators to pipeline opportunities. Apart from the private sector side, we also have our partnerships, obviously, with the Department of Energy, as well as with state energy offices, and we've created what we call 2 pipelines. The idea is to create many-to-many engagements where tech-to-market opportunities can bubble to the top. So our 2 pipelines are as follows. The public sector pipeline is through access to funding, validation opportunities, and manufacturing opportunities through DOE's ERE office, as well as our allyship with the National Association of State Energy Officials. On the private sector side, we're looking at a tech-to-market pipeline through networks, demonstrations, and funding through exposure of the large networks which are run by Greentown Labs and the Austin Technology Incubator. And you will hear from both of our partners soon. Our team consists of a core small Berkeley Lab team. You've heard from Marianne already. She is our senior advisor on IMPEL, as well as Steve Selkowitz, who is the former director of the Building Technologies and Urban Systems division at Berkeley Lab. So together, the Berkeley Lab team brings about over half a century of building science expertise to the table. We also have, as part of our tech to market experts, our coaches who come from the Silicon Valley ecosystem, including from Stanford and Berkeley, and of course, our incubator partners from ATI and Greentown Labs. In the past 2 years that we've opened up IMPEL to citizens across the country, across the US, we've seen 36 small businesses and entrepreneurs go through the program, as well as 15 universities and national labs. We want to foster diversity, and we also want to foster early stage climate tech. So 90% of our innovators are really early stage, and they have developed the idea up to early prototype of product. We also realize that buildings are hugely region specific, depending on the climate, the construction, and the innovation appetite of a particular region. So we also encourage participation from innovators from across the country, whether it be Arkansas or Alaska. And finally, we do want to promote racial and gender diversity. So over half of our participants to date have been either female or people of color. We've been seeing some early wins as well. And here's just a quick snapshot of what our innovators have been doing over the past couple of years in terms of winning pilots and partnerships, as well as grants, fellowships, and funding. And this is for both hardware and software solutions, as well in some cases, projects and programs. So I'll give you a couple of examples here. So a national lab team from Lawrence Berkeley National Lab participated in the program in 2019, and they pitched the thin triple windows, which is essentially a window assembly which has 3 panes of glass with extremely high performance into the same footprint as a double pane window. So retrofits can be done easier without needing to change the wall system. And they were able to sign on 3 manufacturing partners to add the thin triple to their assembly, to their product line, as well as partner with utilities to offer this as an incentive. Another example that you'll hear from today is from a small business. Adam is here, he'll talk more about this, where after going through the IMPEL program, they were able to sign on several proofs of concept and actually sign on real customers after being able to pitch to them. Another example here is on the university side of things, where one of our graduate student innovators developed the idea, learned to pitch it through the IMPEL program, and was able to win American-made Buildings Prize for their EasyBot, which is essentially a drone that flies around buildings and measures for moisture and thermal leaks. So as you can see, there are many more in the pipeline. We hear about successes from our IMPEL innovators every week, every month, and we wish them continued success ahead. So let's talk about next year. So October 1st is the beginning of the federal fiscal year, and we have officially launched through this webinar the new season of IMPEL Plus. We have 3 phases coming up in the program year. The first phase will encompass pitch workshops. So here we will select 45 innovators that are working on buildings and energy, and we will select them to go through 3 pitch coaching workshops, which will happen on December 3rd, January 21st, and February 11th. Once the innovators go through the workshops, we will down select about 50% and make them go through phase 2, which is customized training. And this will entail 2 main aspects. One is business seminars, and the second is mentor sessions. Also, as part of phase 2, we will have a reverse pitch event through which incubators and investors from both the public and private sector side will pitch to our cohorts of IMPEL participants to talk about what they are looking for. You will also hear a little bit more about this during the webinar today. And finally, in phase 3, we will have our pipeline events, which will be in spring, summer of 2022, where these down-selected innovators will be pushed through our pipeline. So this will be through the national showcases with the DOE, with our incubator partners. Some of them will go into Austin Technology Incubator's accelerator, and some of them will go into different pipelines of awards and pilots. So in short, we are launching 4 new things for IMPEL this year. The first is 3 tracks, which we call a 3D vision for a net zero carbon built environment. This is through decarbonize, democratize, and digitalize. The second new aspect of programming is our new business seminars. The third aspect is the reverse partner pitch, and the fourth is the mentor panels. And additionally, we will also continue to have national showcases at the DOE's annual peer preview through the Building Technologies Office, the EarthX eCapital Pitch Prize, which is enabled by our partner, Austin Technology Incubator, Greentown Labs Pitch Day, and ATI's SEAL Summer Accelerator. So let's talk about each of these in a little bit more detail. The first is around our 3D vision. So we will have 3 tracks, one for each of the workshops. So the pitch workshops are basically intense 10-hour days, and one of our coaches, JJ Singh, will talk about this in more detail. But each of these workshops will focus on one track. The Decarbonize workshop will focus on helping innovators who are looking at projects to reduce both operational and embodied carbon, as well as circularity in materials, construction, equipment, and operations. The second track will be digitalize, and this will be around innovators who want to use digital platforms to enable smartly connecting buildings, distributed energy resources, people, and organizations. So these are essentially tools and technologies to optimize building, community, and grid integration. And the third track will be democratize, which is innovators who are looking at projects to provide equitable wellness in a resilient living environment. So these are the 3 tracks, and all the applicants who apply for this season's IMPEL program will be asked which particular track they feel that they mostly align to, and then the selection will happen based on these 3 tracks. Getting to the next aspect, the reverse partner pitch. This is an event which will happen in conjunction with Building Technologies Office's peer review in spring of 2022. And here they will have 3 types of people presenting. One is public grant officers who will present the award opportunities. The second is certain incubators and investors who will offer insights into what they look for when they invest in teams. And the third is national labs who will present a subselection of licensable IP, which is related to buildings and energy. And for this particular pitch event, all cohorts of IMPEL innovators will be invited to attend for broad scale exposure. The third aspect, business seminars, is something that we've added this year, which goes beyond the pitch training. So while the pitch training workshops focus mostly on 4 aspects, the customer, the problem, the product, and the ask, the business seminars, as our second coach, Christina Elwood, who will talk in a few minutes, will explain to you further, will allow innovators to think through an initial business plan framework. And this will be programmed as 3 half-day seminars. And the fourth aspect, which I'm really, truly excited about, is our fantastic mentor panel, which we've added this year. There's actually, what you see on screen here is our entire set of mentors, but they will be assigned to the 3 different tracks based on their personal interest and the work that they do. So as you can see, each of our mentor panels will have 4 types of individuals. One is investors, and investors are coming from a range of investments firms. Some of them are coming from typical climate tech venture firms such as Clean Energy Ventures, or even ADL Ventures. Some of them are coming from incubators such as Third Derivative. Some of them are coming from banks such as SoftBank. Some of them are coming from corporate ventures such as Carrier and Saint-Gobain. And then we also have some boutique firms such as Shadow Ventures. So that's really our roster of investors who we're really hoping can help us get our innovators aligned into a mindset of what is investable and what can be de-risked. The second category of mentors is our demonstration experts. And talking about de-risking, it's not just financial de-risking, which is important. Making sure the technology de-risking happens is also important. So we have 4 individuals, and you'll hear from some of them today. They're coming from NASIO, from the Department of Defense, from General Services Administration, and Syracuse's Demo Innovation Cluster. So our 4 demonstration experts are the people who will enable pilots and demonstrations to happen to help de-risk technology. The third category of mentors is our entrepreneurs who've done it before, and we're hoping can help innovators along their journey as being entrepreneurs. And finally, we have our technical experts from different national labs who can help the innovators through the subject matter knowledge and help them to address any R&D gaps, also plug them into the national lab ecosystem. So as I said, I'm very excited about our mentor panel, and we're going to hear from some of them today who have been nice enough to join the webinar. So taking a pause here, I will like to introduce our IMPEL expert coaches for this year. We have 3 coaches. The first is Whitney Henderson, who has also coached with us last year. She is a lecturer at UC Berkeley's Haas Business School, and she also serves as a National Science Foundation I-Corps National Instructor. I don't think she's been able to join us today. She's actually on travel.
Oh, just a quick hi, Reshma. I'm here, just not on video. I'm in the airport. Nice to meet everyone.
Thanks for joining, Whitney. Thank you for saying hello. And then I'll also like to introduce our other coach who is going to be coaching our pitch coaching workshops. JJ, could you please turn on your video? And JJ is the co-president of Stanford Angels. He's an investor in enterprise and healthcare companies, a guest lecturer at Stanford, and a board member in advisory 7 companies.
Thank you, Reshma. Good day, everybody, and a pleasure being with you. I've had the distinct pleasure of being the coach for the last couple of years with Christina and Whitney. And I think we have coached in somewhere north of 100 participants in about 6+ events over a couple of years. The goal has been to bring industry best practices into these workshops to be able to then walk each innovator through what could be a good pitch for their audience. Specifically, the participants have come from the hardware world, software, solutions, consulting. They've dealt with materials, core technologies, Windows, HVAC systems, consulting, and they've had a range of participants. Some people have been solo project-based, others have a team with a product, while others have organizations that already have sales going. The binding theme has been that we focused on creating a message for them, and we bring this from a couple of places. I personally have been an investor in about a dozen companies, and I teach at Stanford, and I also have been the CEO of 3 companies. Currently, I'm an investor in about a dozen and focus on the enterprise software space and run a company called, or a group called Stanford Angels out of Stanford. What we focus in our pitches is to first ask the question, who is your customer? Turns out it's a pretty hard question to answer because people sometimes confuse users or partners as customers. The second one has been, what's the problem that you're facing? And is it a must have or just a nice to have issue for the customer? And lastly, what's your product and how to position it? We wrap it together and make it into a nice pitch. At the end of the day, we found that participants have to unlearn a lot of things and then learn how to pitch. Given feedback from participants, what we found is that this is just one of the things they need to learn. And we're now moving the effort at IMPEL into the next phase, if you will, where we will not only go through pitch sessions, but also do business seminars, which my colleague Christina is going to go through. So again, welcome everybody. Looking forward to being with you for the next year. Christina, over to you.
Oh, thanks. It has been my distinct pleasure to work with the IMPEL Plus team since the beginning. in a variety of roles. This year, JJ and I will be running the business seminars. And we're really looking forward to adding this dimension and talking about competition, go-to-market, pricing, revenue models, organizational growth, all of the aspects of the organization or the business that are necessary for commercialization, or your project that are necessary for getting it in the hands of someone who can commercialize. So I have worked in a variety of technology spaces as an interim chief marketing officer for venture funded companies, including in the building technology space, but beyond that space. And my specialty really is in helping companies to build traction in the marketplace. So helping you to understand those commercial opportunities and how to represent those to investors from their perspective is part of what I will be doing for you. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Reshma.
Thanks so much, JJ and Christina. I'll like to introduce at this point, Mitch Jacobson, Executive Director of the Austin Technology Incubator, and Nina Berger, the VP of Partnerships at Greentown Labs, to share what they bring to the IMPEL table.
Thank you, Reshma. And it's great to be here, and welcome everybody. We got in this partnership with Lawrence Berkeley Labs last year, and a really wonderful time with the group, but also especially with the teams that we mentored and took through our program. So just a little bit about the Austin Technology Incubator, or ATI. We are a deep tech incubator. So I also run the I-Corps program out of NSF for the University of Texas. Could you go to the next slide, please? So our mission, and we are the longest standing technology incubator in the country, believe it or not. We're about 33 years old. I've been there for 12 years. We empower university and community entrepreneurs through a customized approach to effectively commercialize their breakthrough innovations and compete in the global marketplace. So we are part of the University of Texas at Austin. We do work with faculty and scientists and engineers to hopefully commercialize technology out of the University of Texas. But as important is working with our community, the state of Texas, and really now across the country with entrepreneurs who have wonderful opportunities within both what we call the sustainability world, which is the world we're dealing with here, and also in healthcare. Next slide, please. So here's some of the impact that we've had over our 33 years. We've worked with lots of companies, have had a lot of impact, and have a lot of great exits. Next, please. We actually created the first clean energy incubator back in 2001, and have expanded throughout the sustainability world around water, food, ag tech, buildings, et cetera. And so we try to hit on everything around infrastructure. Next slide, please. And where we do best is around the pre-seed, seed, and Series A. Those are the kind of companies we're looking for to bring into our incubator. Our relationship, though, with IMPEL is all around taking advantage of the other partners, some of the other partners that we work with on a yearly basis. And so through EarthX, the eCapital Summit, we will expose our IMPEL companies to hundreds of investors and potential folks who want to get involved with your company. That happens in April around Earth Day. And then our summer accelerator that Reshma had referred to, which is an accelerator that we've actually put on for 13 years. We have customized it to the companies that are coming through this program to be a part of this 9-week accelerator program starting in June. So we look forward to that. And I think that's all the time I've got. And I will introduce Nina Berger from our partner, Greentown Labs.
Hello, everyone. As has been said already, it is a pleasure to be here today. Greetings from Greentown Labs headquarters that you're seeing in the background. It was really our great privilege to work with the IMPEL Plus team last year, as well as their innovators, and we are so looking forward to doing so again next year. Next slide, please. So we're Greentown Labs. We're the largest climate tech incubator in North America, and we have our headquarters in Somerville, Massachusetts, and a new location in Houston, Texas. And we're very much mission oriented. We are all about building and supporting a community of entrepreneurs who are tackling very, very tough climate and sustainability challenges by providing them with the resources and space and labs and community and connections that they need in order to succeed. And we do that through the incubator. And then we also do that through an in-house accelerator program that we run. Next slide, please. So this here provides just a snapshot of our scale. We've been around for a decade. We're celebrating our 10th birthday this year. And what you're seeing across the bottom is the number of startups that we have supported over time in any given year. So currently, Greentown Labs is supporting about 190 startups across our 2 locations. And we're really, really proud of our startups. We're proud of the revenue they've generated, the jobs they've created, the funding they've raised, and we're particularly proud of this 88% startup survival rate. Next slide, please. So we're a community organization, and our kind of success very much goes hand in hand with the success of our partners and collaborators who are also all about supporting climate tech entrepreneurs and climate tech startups. So what you're seeing here is just a snapshot of where we generally see ourselves falling in the ecosystem. It is quite common for folks to go through contests or accelerator programs like the IMPEL one, and then end up joining Greentown Lab for incubator membership for some certain amount of time. Next slide, please. So how do we support startups in the incubator, and how do we support the IMPEL innovators who we end up working with? You know, Greentown, to our incubator members, provides physical space, that's desk space, but also prototyping space and wet lab space. We frequently work with hardware-oriented startups. So there's a physical space component. We then also provide our incubator members with a whole suite of business services and tools, things like certain software licenses or a shared machine shop or a certain amount of pro bono legal advice. And then the last bit is community and connections. We know it's really hard to be an entrepreneur. And so we foster this community that provides support along that journey. We love to support our entrepreneurs in connecting with one another, as well as connecting with investors and corporations in our ecosystem. And this is where the work with IMPEL really comes into play. We love to welcome the IMPEL innovators into the Greentown Labs community and support them in connecting with other Greentown startups, investors in our ecosystems, and corporates in our ecosystem. So that's just a snapshot. Thank you again for having me today. And with that, over to Reshma.
Thank you so much, Mitch and Nina. I will now like to hand it off for our mentor panel. So I'm going to stop my screen share now and invite Kip, Guri, Maria, Rodney, Bing, Tim, Maria, Cyril, Sagit, and Monica to please turn your videos on. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining. We will start our short, but hopefully very informative mentor panel now. I'm just going to go across my screen and introduce people. So starting with Kip Bradford. Hi, Kip. He's a CTO of Gradient, which is a cooling system startup. He's based out of Rhode Island. He's a serial entrepreneur and previously a senior research scientist at the MIT Media Lab. Welcome, Kip. Guri Ahluwalia is joining us from Texas. He is the founder and CEO of Digital Twin Labs. He's also currently the advisor at Gates Foundation and previously the CTO for IBM North America. Welcome, Guri. Thank you for joining. Maria Carrillo. She leads project operations at Block Power, which is a Brooklyn, New York-based energy technology startup which offers smart all-electric heating, cooling, and hot water systems to building owners for no money down. Welcome, Maria. So these are our 3 entrepreneurs. I'll introduce our demonstration experts next. So Rodney Sobin. Hi, Rodney. He's a senior director at the National Association of State Energy Officials, and he leads Building to Grid Integration Initiative, supports a range of building energy efficiency and energy environmental integration activities. Welcome, Rodney. Next, we have on the screen Bing Dong. He leads New York State's Center for Excellence for Environmental and Energy Systems at Syracuse University. This center is a hub for innovative research and product development to improve indoor environmental quality, energy efficiency in buildings, and clean and renewable energy and water resources. Welcome, Bing. Tim Tetro, who is not able to join us on video, but is on the call. He's a program manager at Department of Defense's Energy and Water Program for the Environmental Security Technology Certification Program, which is lovingly called ESTCP. It is DoD's Environmental Technology Demonstration Validation Program, and under Tim, there are approximately 65 active demonstration projects with application to military installation, energy, and water use. Very impressive. So that's our demonstration experts. Next, I'll go to our investors. I see that Cyril is here. Cyril is a co-founder and head of investments and research at Third Derivative, which is a joint venture of the Rocky Mountain Institute and New Energy Nexus. And Third Derivative is a new vertically integrated engine for climate innovation. Welcome, Cyril. I don't see Maria Woodman here. Maria, are you here? Possibly she couldn't join us. Sugit, are you here? Okay, I think they were not able to join today. So I'll move on to Monica Roy, who is the Entrepreneurship Manager of Innovation and Technology at Carrier. And she comes to us as a corporate venture mentor. So that's our star-studded mentor panel. So thank you all, of course, for being on the IMPEL program as very, very valued mentors. I'm going to start it off with a question to Kip Guri and Maria Carrillo. My question to you is, when you joined the IMPEL program as a mentor, how did you feel that you could help our IMPEL innovators who are very early stage along their work through the IMPEL tracks? So we have the 3 tracks: decarbonize, digitalize, and democratize. So to you, Kip, Guri, and Maria, how could you take a minute or so and just talk about how you feel you could help the innovators?
Certainly, I can go first. So for the democratized track specifically, I feel that I can help innovators pull forward equity into the core of their solutions and their story, and help them to build creative and vast networks that are rooted in fostering a community-first approach to drive pilots and bridge historical gaps to address equity and wellness within buildings, as well as drive public and private partnerships to execute and build technologies.
I'll jump in next. Thank you, Maria. I have been a C-level executive at a number of hardware startups, and also advised dozens of hardware startups through early stage, through production, commercialization, and have done a lot of work in product design development and looking at product market fit. So those are things that I can bring as a resource or advisor, and happy to contribute to directing some of the hardware development work that some of the companies are faced with on the decarbonize track.
Thank you, Reshma. Gurvinder here. So, it's a privilege to be invited to the discussion and to the panel. The 3 things that I'd like to lend, my background is in computer science. Glad to be reassociated with the lab. I did my early graduate research at the lab. So the 3 things that come to my mind: one is looking at the intersection of digital and physical, which everybody is doing, no doubt, and that's why we quite naturally call it digital twin. But I would add to that a 3rd dimension, and that is financial, right? So I think that'll also become especially important in the 2 valleys that you pointed out towards commercialization of the ideas that are going to come in. The second aspect that I'd like to kind of learn from my deep and long heritage with technology, and I might say bias from there, is how patterns in software design, basically the digitization theme that he talked about, really borrow from patterns in civil architecture and building construction. There's much more elaboration. Happy to get into mentorship discussions, how it might tie into individual startups. And then the last one I would point out is a little bit more concrete in terms of certain examples where digitization overall and some of the few things in my background kind of help hopefully to the cause over here is you think about energy credit unions and trading of energy credit unions in kind of distributed energy sources and marketplaces. You think about bill of materials, parts and 3D provenance in the construction sector and how blockchain technologies could lend to some of that, which incidentally is one of my deep areas. You think about digital asset and tokenization of buildings and energy and looking at those as kind of digital assets. Those are some of the areas of new frontiers that are being opened, not just to the digital aspect, but also to the economic and financial kind of wrapper around whatever products are built. Back to you, Reshma.
Thank you so much. I think all of you bring so much to the table for all the three tracks. I'm excited to see what the innovators can get with the engagement with all of you. So I'm going to move on to our demonstration experts, Rodney, Bing, and Tim. Question to you is, because a lot of our innovators are early stage, how do you think you can potentially help them de-risk their technologies through your demonstration channels?
So maybe I'll start off. I would greatly encourage attention to potential markets and market challenges. Sometimes entrepreneurs have a good feel for this, and sometimes they are, shall we say, enamored with the technology and lose, track of who's actually going to buy it. So I would focus on that, and I would include very importantly the role of policies and regulations. Policies and regulations existing as well as prospective as we look to the future can drive demand. They can provide encouragement for innovation, but depending on policy design, they can also impede innovation. So there needs to be a lot of attention on that. And also to think a lot about competing approaches. Who are your competitors? If anyone really says there are no competitors to this, then I think they've not really thought enough about it. The competition may not necessarily be a similar technology, but it could be a very different technology, a very different approach, a different business model to solve the problem that your technology is intended to solve. So those are some of the things that I would focus on, and coming from the association representing the state energy offices, with a strong feel for the policy and regulatory environments. And I'll also add, I'm very pleased to be here and a privilege to join this group.
I will go next. I'm very pleased to be here. So our Syracuse Center of Excellence building has a very strong testbed for the GATE technology with different HVAC labs and also whole building as a test lab. So we will provide innovators the hands-on experiences and also provide our past project experience to de-risk their innovations. Center of Excellence also have partner with other startup companies. So we also have a lot of experience how we help startup companies to go through this first stage. Yeah.
Tim, I know you can't see us probably, but did you want to add something as well? Thank you, Bing and Rodney. Okay, looks like Tim is still on mute. Tim, would you like to add something here?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me now?
Hi.
I think
Yes.
I'm unmuted. Yeah, great. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm very excited to participate in the program this year. Yeah, from where I sit, my experience is I am looking forward to providing some support in understanding the value of field demonstrations. Through our program, we demonstrate over 50, 60 different technologies and different settings within the Department of Defense. And through that process, I've learned a lot about the design of demonstration projects, but also developing networks of stakeholders to participate in those demonstrations so that the findings from those are spread wide and targeted to ultimately what your objectives are for the technology. So I look forward to participating.
Thank you so much, Rod, Bing, and Tim, for opening up your networks and your influence to help our innovators, because I know from experience seeing where they are that they would certainly need help to de-risk their technologies through pilots, demonstrations. Access to policy is really important too. So just kind of having a sense of what the projected policies are looking like, how they're going to be shaped, is also a very essential part of it. So thank you. So moving on to, I'm going to invite Cyril and Monica, sort of on our investor side of things. How do you think that we can drive buildings and building edge technologies, which are, just traditionally a very underserved, underinvested sector, to more investments to scale? And how do you think you all could help with this?
Yeah, I'll take that. So, there are a lot of challenges, as you just said, with regards to new technologies entering the building space. And as Rodney pointed out, policy is a really important one of them. When BPA, Bonneville Power Authority, did a study a few years back looking at AC units installed there, and 97% of units were just meeting the minimum code because of upfront costs. So even if it's a lower lifetime cost, people are very, very sensitive to upfront costs. So what drives change is often policy and maybe potentially new business model innovation, right? That can offset the upfront costs. If you look at like rooftop solar, for example, one of the reasons it took off was, solar PPAs or solar leases, et cetera, that took away the upfront costs. So, the Rocky Mountain Institute, which Third Derivative is part of, we've got a whole 50-person building practice that works very much on the policy as well. And then the other thing, which I think is a critical barrier, is that if you look at the industry, it is comprised of tens of thousands of mom and pop contractors and relatively few OEMs like Carrier or Owens Corning, et cetera. So it's highly fragmented on the customer side. And these assets, if you look at HVAC units, often like a 10-year asset, these mom and pop contractors are not going to buy a long-term asset like that from a startup that they've never heard of, that can't really do guarantees on it or warranties on it, et cetera. And so one of the big theories of change of Third Derivative is to tap into the corporate networks and connections that the Rocky Mountains Institute has, because we work with pretty much every corporate that touches the energy space around the world, and get the startups linked up to the corporates to actually be able to enter the market. So I think that's one way that we can definitely help. Thanks.
Yeah, and to kind of echo what Cyril was saying, our industry is very driven by regulatory, especially in the HVAC and air handling areas. So, we've tended to move at the speed of codes and standards, but that doesn't hold true today. The reality is that markets and consumers and our customers are demanding solutions in advance of those regulatory releases. So the innovation that's coming out of our national labs and through our startup ecosystems are so important to help drive some of that change, especially when corporates are paying attention to those regulatory. So as part of an innovation group, it's my responsibility to be here and participate and foster the innovation that's coming out of our ecosystems in order to give them a chance to impact our climate and our world and our futures.
Thank you so much, Cyril and Monica. So I'm just going to lead in with one final question. Maybe one or two of you would like to answer is, what in your opinion is the role and the advantage of a national lab doing IMPEL Plus? Like, how can we leverage the national lab ecosystem and the innovation ecosystem to work together? Does anybody have maybe a quick 30-second, 1 minute take on that?
I do. So, I mentioned that I'm part of an innovation team, and at Carrier, we dare to disrupt, and we rely on innovation and invention to maintain our competitiveness. But we do that through the lens of our current products and our current markets. with the national labs and the startups that are coming out, they're imagining the bigger what ifs and the bigger risks without those lenses, without the limitation of those lenses. So, and it's so important to have that because, you know, we get colored by our biases. And the national labs have the resources and the facilities to nurture those startups that can dream big, who might not otherwise have a chance. So I'm really excited about this program and what could come out of it, because some of the biggest challenges that we have today could be solved through some of the startups that are here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all of your insights and words of wisdom and your openness to help the IMPEL program and our innovator ecosystem in a very important building sector. So thank you, all the mentors. Thank you for joining, and we look forward to continued engagement on a programmatic and per innovator basis with all of you. Thank you. So at this point, I'd like to hand it off to Laura and invite our three innovators for our innovator panel, Tanya Barum, Carolyn Zum, and Adam Landsman. Please take it away.
Thanks, Reshma. Hi, innovators. It's really wonderful to see the three of you again. Tanya, Adam, and Carolyn are three of our building tech innovators from last year's cycle. So pleasure to see you again. And I'll do a quick introduction of each of you. I know that we are running a little bit behind in this. So Carolyn is a program manager at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, and she's based in the California Bay Area. Tanya Barum is the CEO and founder of Community Energy Labs in Portland, and Adam Landsman is the president of Pulse IQ in Maryland. So maybe I'll start with Carolyn. Let's start with you. If you could just tell us a little bit about, very briefly, what do you do and what project did you bring to IMPEL last year?
Sure, thanks, Laura. So I will just say that I'm a market transformation specialist, a building energy efficiency market transformation specialist. I began my career actually in management consulting. I spent about 7 years in Washington, D.C., 7 years in Beijing, which gave me a global perspective on challenges related to decarbonizing the built environment. The project that I brought to IMPEL is called the Building Efficiency Targeting Tool for Energy Retrofits, or BETTER. It's a lightweight web application that essentially replaces a level 1 audit. So it uses simple data inputs to quantify the size and the makeup of potential energy efficiency projects in buildings and large portfolios. And it helps energy service companies, building owners, operators, large portfolio owners and operators to avoid expensive, time-consuming level 1 audits, which is essentially a building walkthrough and an analysis of utility bills. So, wonderful project, wonderful opportunity participating in IMPEL. And, Laura, do you want me to continue to talk about my experience, or did you want to just stop with an intro and an overview of the technology?
Sure, that's great. I know that you brought BETTER over to the semifinals of the EarthX Climate Tech Prize. So congratulations on that. EarthX is an early stage, is a place where early stage startup companies pitch to investors for a chance to win prize money. So could you share a little bit briefly again about what that experience was like for you and what you got out of it, and maybe how IMPEL helped prepare you for it?
Sure. So an incredible experience, IMPEL really brought me that experience. Without IMPEL, I wouldn't have been pitching my technology to investors nor competing for this prize money. I will say that, IMPEL has been one of the best professional experiences I've had. The coaches across the board are incredible, and they helped me turn a pitch that was sort of, initially geared more toward a national lab or federal government audience for one that would capture the imagination of investors. And, I ended up following as much as advice as I could, worked late nights and weekends. Not going to lie, it's a lot to prepare for that pitch competition. But you know, some of my colleagues that listened in thought it was a great pitch, and I feel good about that. Ultimately, we ended up meeting with 5 investors and developing quite a good relationship with particularly one of them, Exelon Foundation, Energy Climate Change Investment Initiative. So that's been phenomenal. We continue to meet with them and dialogue about the evolution of Better, and you know, see how we might go forward with them. And you know, in an irony of ironies, Laura, what ended up happening as we honed this pitch for a commercial audience, we were invited to give some talks back at the Department of Energy, and we got excellent feedback on the technology itself and the pitch, and DOE has started to pull Better into their ecosystem of data analytic tools. So we're thrilled about that, and we see it being positioned to support sort of an energy justice equity angle, supporting public school districts, housing authorities to improve energy performance at speed and scale and low cost. So it's been a wonderful experience, and you know, thanks to everyone at IMPEL that's helped make it possible.
Thanks, Carolyn. That's a fantastic update, and we're so happy to hear about Better progressing well beyond the program. Tanya, maybe we'll switch to you real quick. So you've been so busy at Community Energy Labs. I want to congratulate you on the SBIR Phase 1 funding and recent CRADA partnership, which I believe is with Berkeley Lab. So before going into that, could you tell us a little bit about what you do and what Community Energy Labs does, and which of your programs you brought to IMPEL last year?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone, for having us. My name is Tanya Barum. I started out my career on the coal-fired and gas-fired central generating stations using digitization and prediction to improve operating uptime, and transitioned into grid-connected solar photovoltaics in the early 2000s, before NEMS, before the ITC, and then later did rooftop unit optimization, a platform software in the mid-2000s. Using virtual teams. And so, you know, I've really been for about 20 years working on cutting edge energy innovations and that interface between the grid and the built environment. So CEL is very much along those lines. According to just what other folks talked about, that really the barrier that's particularly small to mid-sized commercial customers face in upgrading their equipment. We have a low-cost IoT and software as a service control platform that building operators who find it complex, frustrating, and very expensive to meet new building energy goals, or time-varying commercial tariffs from their energy provider, or to reduce their demand charges even as they bring on solar to the rooftop. Our software sort of solves that problem for them at a low initial cost, enabling them to electrify sooner and with a lower operating cost, to avoid having to pass, say, a bond measure in order to get started. And that's the technology that we brought to IMPEL. Obviously, there are multiple components in that, and we've been very happy to, along the way, along with our commercial pilots through EPRI, Southern California Edison, Silicon Valley Clean Energy, Tacoma Power, and Energy Northwest, be able to attract some additional R&D funding through the Department of Energy SBIR, and to be able to test within those pilots some amazing innovations from folks who are on the very cutting edge of building energy research, such as Dong-Hoon Kim at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, who is the researcher that we're working on with the CRADA to deploy his tech in some of our pilot and demonstration sites. So very excited about all of that progress, and thank you.
That is very exciting. Given that you're coming out of the other end of this and seeing all these partnerships and funding come through, what groups of innovators out there do you think could benefit the most from IMPEL's workshops and pipeline events?
I think as long as you know what, one thing I really appreciated about my experience at IMPEL was JJ Singh said, it doesn't matter who your audience is for this pitch. You just need to know who your audience is. And for us, I'm a third-time entrepreneur. So this is my third venture. I feel fairly comfortable with pitching. I understand how the private side of things works, but iterating that technology through those early stages of maturity when you have startup wages to pay and some of the best thinkers are at the national labs it was very important for us to have connections coming in as an experienced entrepreneur, to have connections with the lab. And if it weren't for you, Laura and Reshma, I think there are a lot of opportunities to connect with scientists, with the DOE, with tech to market and licensing programs that I really didn't learn about until I was on the IMPEL Plus LinkedIn channel, until I read your emails. And it was an amazing way for us to really hone our pitch to some of those researchers. I see a couple of them in the attendees, that we said, hey, we want to work with you. We want an opportunity to try your innovations and put those in our technology roadmap for the long run. I think though it could be just as helpful for a scientist who's looking to learn more about the business side. And so I do like that there is that 2-track system, and that the mentors are really set up to sort of assist you no matter what approach you intend to take.
Thanks, Tanya. Adam, I'd love to switch to you, and if you could tell us a bit about what do you do at Pulse IQ and what you're doing today.
Sure. Well, first, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Reshma, and the IMPEL team for inviting me here today. Thank you for all the attendees for spending your afternoon with us. It's fitting. Today is also Energy Efficiency Day, so you're all in the exact right place. My name's Adam Landsman. I'm the president of Pulse IQ. We're based in Tacoma Park, Maryland, sometimes known as the Berkeley of the East. And we have an innovative energy management hardware and software solution that we provide to underserved multifamily properties. And when I think back to my experience in IMPEL, I'm reminded of a recent anecdote shared by James Dice, who's a former NREL staffer and innovator extraordinaire. He had just finished a technical lecture on monitoring-based commissioning and fault detection and diagnosis, really nerdy stuff. And after the presentation, a member of the audience came up to him and said, "Hey, James, I hear you about this energy stuff, but let me be honest, energy efficiency is like my 12th highest priority. Can you tell me about how this technology helps us improve the things that matter most to us?" And I think this is what IMPEL really helped me to solve. As innovators, we all think of our technology, our solutions like our babies. We love them and we nurture them, we cherish their every facet and nuance, but we have a hard time reducing them down to their essential elements, and more importantly, to aligning them to the things that matter most to our potential customers or clients or funders. That's really what IMPEL does best. We all know that energy efficiency is the most critical challenge facing the world today, but the question is, how do we move it up from the 12th spot for our target audience? And so for me, IMPEL helped me to focus and align my pitch to have the maximum impact on a group of apartment building owners, and to help me take a complex technology and make it easy for them to understand and to align our value proposition with theirs and their bottom line. And so as a result of that pitch practice that we honed with the IMPEL team, with the coaches, and with our fellow innovators, we were able to craft a message that really worked, and it helped us to land 3 commercial clients. And it was a really important early stage win for us as we try to commercialize and scale.
Thanks, Adam. That's great news. And I've heard too that you deployed Pulse IQ in many more locations, and that you just met a client today who is still happy. So that's really encouraging. Well, thank you, all of you, for sharing your experiences about IMPEL. Really appreciate it. It's fantastic to hear about the progress that you've made since IMPEL, and let's be in touch. Reshma, I will pass it off to you.
Thank you, Laura. I'm just going to end with one last slide, and thank you for everybody who's still hanging out here. Our application is open for innovators. So if you know of lab researchers, academia folks, small businesses, and professionals who are interested in the building space and want to impel the building technology, please ask them to apply at impel.lbl.gov. Our webinar recording will also be posted there for people who want to come back to any details or offer that as a resource to others. It's all on our website. It's all on our homepage. And we'll stop the formal part of the presentation, but thank you to everybody who's joined today, and looking forward to help you impel your building technology. Thank you.